Now we've got to talk a little bit about some of the VLAN routing options because there are different variations of these solutions. The first solution was the first one that I presented, that I can use a router with separate physical links. Now in this case, you can see that I've got several switches, all of which have virtual LANs defined on them. For me to be able to route between different VLANs, I'm going to have that layer 3 device. Now using separate physical links, my router would have to have a dedicated interface for every VLAN that exists. If you ever look into the price of routers with a lot of interfaces, the more interfaces you add to the router, the more expensive it gets. Plus we're facing the issue of leaving the switch fabric, hitting the router, and then entering the switch fabric again, possibly leaving it again to be routed and sent back in to go to a different VLAN. It's not the best possible solution just because we do have the layer 3 bottleneck when doing VLAN routing. We also have a cost concern. Well, one of the ways that we can cut back on the cost is by utilizing what is known as a VLAN trunk to the router. A trunk is defined as a very specific link, which is running a trunking protocol that allows multiple VLANs traffic to cross over the same link. So effectively, what this does is it cuts down on the number of interfaces that are required on the router. But we do have another issue. This scenario is sometimes known as router on a stick because the single interface can be used to route between many VLANs. But we do have an inherent problem with this. What we see in this graphic is switch block A, which includes 3 separate switches that are all connected together into a single switch fabric. Now defined on these 3 switches, I have 3 separate VLANs. VLAN 10, VLAN 20, and VLAN 30. Remember that my layer 3 element has got to be a router of some type. So that means that hosts that are addressed on VLAN 10 and need to communicate with VLAN 20 have got to exit out of a single link to hit the router to be processed by layer 3, then sent back through the same link to hit the switch again to be sent to the ports that belong to VLAN 30. So obviously I've got a bottleneck, not only at a router device, but I also have a bottleneck on the single line that's being used to support multiple VLANs. It is one of the possible solutions, but as you can see, router on a stick is probably not going to be the best solution for a very high throughput requirement in the campus network.